Good profit is the result of doing many things right. So that is actually the focus.
Purpose for me as a person, for our company, if it's not driven off something that is different than the status quo, I promise you South Africa has got trouble. Doesn't matter who the president is.
And I think as individuals, that's a question we need to be always asking ourselves, and we need to be asking, where can the people that we influence and lead, how much further can they go?
Sure, that was quite an introduction. I'm blushing, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Goeiemorgen, namaste, dumelang, unjani. I think Krista summed up quite nicely what I intend to do this morning, and really it's just my opinion. I really want to create a learning environment because a lot of us go for leadership courses and we go and learn how to be better people and we go on personal development journeys, and it's usually not something that's quite interactive. And you guys have been on quite a few of these talks, and Chris has given a talk, Patrick has given a talk, Wasaf, and I just want to try and get to a point where we have interactive discussions. So I will ask a few questions. Please don't be shy. You're welcome to ask me questions. Just interact with me. I would really appreciate it. I would like you to look at me today as Rivasha Maharaj. I'm not the group CFO of AFGRI. You don't work for AFGRI. I don't know any of you. I just have a brilliant memory. I know all of your names. If I don't know your name, I'll just tap you on the shoulder. It's a safe environment, as Krista said. And safe means that you can say what you want. You're not going to be judged in this room. There's no judgment, definitely not from me. Say the only being that can judge is God. So we'll leave that to him. Okay, so I just want to share with you some words that have evolved me into the person that I am today. And I obviously didn't know it when I was younger, and I found out about it a little bit when, as you get older. And one of the things that really stood out to me is there is no nobility in being superior than your fellow colleague or fellow man. The greatest nobility comes from being superior than your former self. And for me, that is a big thing that molds who I am, because it's not beneficial sometimes to compare ourselves to other people. Be who you are and be the best that you can be at who you are, and influence people in the correct manner. The other thing is Albert Einstein's doing, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And that's also a big thing for me because the world changes. Nothing's ever constant. Even parenting, the way we're parents is different from the way we are parents, and we get criticized about it every day. The world changes, and just make sure that we change with it. And the final and most important thing that I would like to share with you is something that my dad said to me. And he says, no matter what the situation, no matter how much the hurt, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what life has thrown at you, just make sure that you are always being a good person. And that for me is what grounds me. It's always be a good person, no matter what you're doing, no matter what hurt you're going through, what the other person has done to you, how you're feeling. Just make sure that in the way you respond, you're always a good person. So I've made some notes, so I'm going to refer to it just in case I lose my train of thought, if you guys don't mind. Okay, so to get started, I would like to just ask you guys, what do you think makes a good leader? Or what qualities would you look at in a person to follow? And don't be shy, I'll pick on you.
I think a leader should have self-confidence.
100%. Come, other guys.
Integrity.
Absolutely.
For me, a leader should also have respect for the fellow human beings and treat everybody on the same level, don't think that you're higher qualified or higher up than anybody, because eventually everybody is actually important.
So hierarchy should fall. Hashtag fall hierarchy. It's a good point.
Humility.
Humility, excellent.
A good listener.
Good listener. Well, those are all good points. I mean, we all know what we want in our leaders, and we all are faced with leaders that sometimes don't have those qualities. For me, one of the things that makes me follow somebody, and now I'm talking as a follower, not as a leader, is my belief in that person. And the reason why I say that is belief, even though it's so simple, belief leads to trust. And trust gets people, if I trust somebody, I'm able to understand their vision. I'm able to get onto the same page that they are with their goals. And I'm also able to align my goals with theirs. And belief is, I always say, it's something so simple. You know, people walk around saying, my daughter believes in unicorns. Will I ever be able to convince her at this stage that they're not real? No, because that's her belief. And it's the same in a leader. If you believe in your leader, or if I believe in my leader, it's very difficult for anybody to convince me otherwise. So I think for me, that's just a driving point. It's important that we believe in each other. And we are all leaders here. Sitting here today, we're all leaders. We all lead in our personal lives, our family, our kids, our parents, work, and we don't need a title to lead. You can come up with the most amazing idea. It doesn't mean you have to be group CFO. You can be anybody. Bongani. Why would you follow somebody?
I think the alignment of values is key, but for me personally, it's not the nobility of the cause as well. So I have to believe in what's in, or at least the intention of what needs to be achieved.
Lunga?
No, I think it's the same from my side. I think more the alignment of goals and visions in terms of where we are.
Okay.
Consistency.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So, from beliefs, for me, the other important thing is, and again, this is just my view and how I've developed into the person that I've developed into, it's my core. And I don't mean the one that I exercise when I do Pilates and yoga. I mean my core, the one that keeps me on the path that I am on my life. And for me, when I close my eyes and I envision my core, it's this bright light that sits right here. It has lots of flowers. It's got animals. It's got my kids. It's what drives me. And the core for me is my values. It's my beliefs. It's my morals. It's my integrity. It's my honesty. Those are the things that drive me. So I would like to ask you guys, how many of you know what your core is? Mariam? You guys are so shy.
Being able to give, making a difference in someone's life. It's gonna, like, if I do anything that doesn't change someone's life better, then it's not important.
It's not important. Okay. So I'm going to just tell you a story about why belief and core is so important to me. And it's an experience I had in my life, in a job that I once found myself in. And it was a fantastic opportunity, as all is the opportunities that come our way. We think they're fantastic. But I didn't believe in my leader. So I didn't believe in my boss. And we didn't share the same core values. We didn't share the same levels of integrity. And when you're in a situation where your integrity is questioned every day, you become conflicted with who you are and who this person wants you to be. And that's not a pleasant place to be. And as a leader, you need to make sure that you are as close to the self that you want to be. There should not be a huge bridge between those 2 points. And if somebody is asking you to do something that you're not comfortable with, you should be brave enough to stand up and say no, even though the consequences to you might be very negative. And the situation I found myself in was, as a single mom, have 3 little girls to feed, to educate, make sure they have the lifestyle that they used to, extracurricular activities. Can't tell them they can't go for ballet lessons. So that was what I was faced with. It's either do what you are being told or put your entire family at risk. And for me, having a belief system and a strong core is what kept me on the right path. Because at the end of the day, you realize that if you give up on your core, the path to hell is paved in gold. So you need to remember that in everything that you do, not just when things get hard, just remember. And if your leader is asking you to do something you shouldn't be doing, or you're not comfortable with, please speak up. And for me, that a good leader should never ask you to do something you're not comfortable with to start off with. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is perception. And a lot of people, when I speak about perception, they don't quite get what I'm trying to say. And to make my point is, if you're a good leader, but you do one thing, and people perceive you to be a bad leader, they will always go back to that one thing that you did. And their perception of you will always be that you are a bad leader, because it's human nature. That is the way our brain works. It's just like how we forget to reward our kids, but we're ever ready to reprimand them when they do something wrong. And the brain, it's just human nature. That's what our brain does. So perception to me, for a leader, is if we talk about something, and you come to me and you say, Rivasha, but I have this idea, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and we have this great conversation, and we talk about all the things we're going to do to enable you to do it. And then I forget, because life happens. And I have other stuff to do, and I juggle work and my family, and then I don't carry out on what I promised. And the next time you want to come and speak to me, the first thing you'll say is, I'm not even going to waste my time, because she listens to me, but she does nothing. Now, it was not my intention to do nothing, but that is how you are going to perceive me. And I can forget ever having a meaningful engagement with you again. That won't happen, because your perception about me has changed. And if we think about our business, and if we think about the changes that we are making, and the change that you guys have gone through in the last year, a lot of the time I get this comment, I'm not quite sure what we're doing. I'm not quite sure where we're going. How many of you feel that way? So you all know where you're going. That's brilliant. Well, then I'm the only one. It's not really quite sure. But I suppose I'll figure it out eventually. But what I'm trying to get to is that sometimes perception just leads us down the wrong road. And it's very important that we make sure that people perceive us the way we want to be perceived. Okay, that brings me down to, so with perception comes communication. And communication is important for me because I want somebody to be transparent and honest, no matter what it is, no matter what the situation. I think we all must assume that whoever we are talking to as leaders, that they are mature enough to understand what we are saying to them, and we are mature enough to explain it to them in a way that makes it understandable. And I think when I talk about communication, I always say if your communication is not transparent, if it's not open, if it's not regular, you will, as a leader, people will start feeling uncertain. Because you'll be making changes and they will not understand exactly why you're making it. They will start getting uncomfortable. Sometimes the morale will drop. And then you need to start at a different level from where you initially were. So how do you guys think communication is here at AFGRI? Reshlin.
I believe communication could be better in AFGRI. The business units kind of do operate in silos, and maybe communication amongst different business units is needed.
Okay.
For me, it's about what's communicated.
Sorry?
For me, it's about what's communicated. So you can have all these platforms, but the information that you push through, is it good enough to make the other person feel like they are being brought along?
Relevant communication. Yes, Jonathan.
It is being communicated on different platforms, but people are not interested enough to actually engage and actually go through that communication.
That's an interesting point.
The core message that I see everywhere is about purpose of the company and individual purpose. And that's what I see being communicated, all the single message that I see.
So now I'm going to ask the room, why do you think people are not interested in reading the communication?
Maybe they don't feel valued.
So relevance. Sorry?
Maybe they don't feel valued.
They don't feel valued.
Why would I be interested in something if I don't feel valued? Or my opinion is not valued?
Okay.
I think we are self-centered. If it's not related to me personally, then I'm not going to read that now. So I do believe that is one of the reasons why we can communicate a lot of things, but if it's not of my interest, I don't read it. We all ask the question, what about me? And I think sometimes that is the focus in what we read.
Okay.
Yes. There's possibly a gap between getting a communication via an email and being told it. And I think all of us would appreciate it more if we came and had a discussion and were told, rather than getting it via an email. And we're all guilty of those emails. It's convenient to send one 9 o'clock at night because you just remember to do it instead of calling your team together and saying, this is what's happening.
So it's the personal human touch to what we do. Because
I think
business development manager.
I think personally, going back, it was mentioned in chat earlier. I think there's a lot of people that don't feel as if they're part of it. And I'm usually concerned that a lot of people only come in for the 8 to 5. And that's not the way it should be. You need to enjoy it, you need to form part of it.
So it's exclusion.
Yeah, but also on a purposefully. They don't feel as if they're part of it, and therefore they're not interested.
They don't feel they add value, maybe. Okay. So I've heard all that's been said, and I must say my next point quite clearly speaks to that, and it's what I call a roadmap. So as you guys say, we send out an email at 9 o'clock at night, and we assume that you are going to deliver on this email, but we haven't told you what we want, we haven't told you how we want it, and we haven't told you what the final destination is. So you go off and you assume that you are adding value and you're doing what you need to do. And then when you produce what you produce, but we say, but that isn't really what I wanted. So for me in life, in anything that I do, And I am a notorious planner. I plan everything. Plan a movie, a picnic, everything. So for me, a roadmap is extremely important. And when I look at my leader, they must have a roadmap, because that is how I operate. I won't just, if you send me a mail, I won't just go off and do what I think you want me to do. I will go to you and say, you sent me this mail at 11:20 last night. What is it that you want? What is who is going to do what? What are the tasks that we are going to do to achieve this? What are our milestones? What is the roadmap? What is the destination? And how do you guys feel about a roadmap concept?
No, it's important to know where you're going and plan. You just can't do something out of the air, and you must be chronological and set up some sort of accounting background.
I agree.
You know what they say? Life happens while you're busy making plans. It's important. I think the goals we have, the output objective is important, but you have to allow for flexibility with it. You have to. And in as much as communication is important, communication also has to be adapted to be tailored to the type of audience that you're directing. Because you can't communicate in the same way to different people. Bongani, for example, likes a hug. other people prefer direct communication. Look, I wouldn't say.
Oh, that's a valid point.
Not the hug, though.
Bongani. So that's exactly true. I mean, the destination will stay the same, or you will decide to move on to bigger things, but your roadmap will change. Your path that you take in whatever you're doing will change. You'll figure out a way of doing something better. There's technology. You'll realize that you don't want to be with the partners that you decided to go into business with. You want to join alliances with somebody else. So the roadmap will change. It has to be agile. But for me, the destination is key. You can't go through life or formulate a strategy for a business not knowing ultimately where you want to be. So those things are important. Any other comments? Any questions?
I think the why needs to go with that roadmap. Because a lot of people want to know, but why? And if that is answered, the why, then you're selling that purpose or that goal to that individual, in my opinion. Yeah.
And you get buy-in. Oh, 100%. Yes.
I think if you know what the goals is, even in a big corporate company like AFGRI, if you know what the goals is and you see your own purpose in there, then you are more likely to actually work together to get to the destination. But I think a lot of times, especially if you're not on a management level, you actually don't know where the company is going. You don't see the goals as if, what should I do to get to that goals? So for me, it's very important to firstly, the leaders must make you feel a part of the group and to share the vision and to actually tell you how far are we away from the vision and what are our plans to get to the visions. So for me, that is very important to actually feel that we work together for the same purpose and to know what the purpose is.
I think, Rivasha, on that point, what I would like to add is that it's not always possible to have face-to-face direct communication and personal communication, especially if you look at my division. We've got 7 mills all over South Africa. But there is times when you get the leadership from those mills together and where there is certain communication. But then what is important to remember is the leader is not just the guy sitting at the top. He's got a reporting line, and that reporting line needs to take the message down right to the bottom. And if you actually look at the structure in our feed mills, we've got level 1 meetings, level 2 meetings, level 3 meetings. And that is the way that the communication should be adjusted and taken right to the bottom, and to the bottom level of the organization. So it can't always just be the leader at the top. Everybody has to take their own responsibility in that role. 100%. Yes, Bongani.
So you said earlier about hierarchy. I think that becomes our biggest enemy. I have instances where a junior member of my team would relay message to a member in a different team. and they'll get disrespected until I get involved. Then the issue gets attended to. You know, so we could sit here and say hierarchy, this and the other, but there's a cultural shift that needs to happen. And then, in my view, that opens a communication thing. It's not so much who's saying it, but it's what's being said.
It's a mind change shift. So we need to, and Bongani is 100% correct. I mean, there's a lot of instances where I would want to change something and I would get told, no, but it's been done like this forever and the decision was made long ago. And I'm like, but it doesn't make sense, you know? And a lot of instances, people just shut down at that point. And it's important for everybody that has a reporting structure beneath them to encourage open and transparent communication, to encourage people to develop their own roadmaps. I mean, everybody, as Lunga says, they come into work and there's stuff that they need to be done. But at the end of the day, there's a bigger picture that they want to achieve. They have their own mini projects and all of those nice things that we get measured on. And for me, if we can all make that mind change, that we are all equal, it's not about the position that you hold, it's not about the title that you wear, but you are all equal, we all have value to add in every aspect. And everybody's idea should be respected and listened to, and credit should be given where credit is due. For me, that's important. What are the things that you guys think about but don't want to say about an attribute of a leader?
Yes? I think authenticity. Leaders need to be very authentic in the ways that they lead people, in the way that they want to carry the strategies of the business forward, the way that they care about the community at large and the customers and suppliers that they deal with.
Yes, Father. Passion. You need to, if a leader is not passionate about what he's doing, how can your people that's following you be passionate about the whole strategy or your whole plan?
Anybody else? Any other comments? Yes, Asha.
My personal opinion is that a leader should know what they want and how to achieve those desired results without trampling at anybody's head and flashing up.
That was powerful. I think you must stand up and say that. Come, Asha. Can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs.
If you want to go through life being nice to everybody, you can sell ice cream.
Let's sell ice cream.
And I think, Rivasha, you said the things that we're thinking but we don't want to say. And it goes with what everyone is saying, you need to be decisive as a leader. And some people can't.
But there are ways in which to be decisive. You need to be decisive, but there are ways. So you can be nice, or you can be horrible. Pick one. That's also you being decisive as the type of leader you want to be. So do you want to be...
I think you're actually empathetic. It's not sympathetic, it's empathetic.
Yes.
Even though what you are telling me is making no sense, it's like something from a fairy tale, I need to be empathetic to be able to see it.
From that person's point of view, 100%. So you need to at least let them know you're going to crack the egg to make the omelette. And hopefully it's not their pet.
You have to be fair.
So, yeah, this is interesting. Yes, because...
I think from my side, what's important, I've seen it a couple of times in my life, is where a leader becomes more stumbling block than a problem solver. Be the visionary, be the person that takes it forward, rather than bringing in the hurdles for all sides. And assist with that.
100%. Bongani?
So it was more of a question, right? That where do we draw the distinction between a good person and an effective leader? Because I think sometimes we kind of blur the lines between the two, because there is such a thing, in my view at least, as a bad leader. You know, we haven't really put a spotlight on the quality of leadership we have. So we kind of use this generic term and just say leader as if it's by birthright that you're there. But some people just shouldn't be there, to be fair. Whether title or not. You know, so
Exactly. Exactly. So I think, you know, it's and I hear what Bongani is saying, and it's spot on. I mean, I've worked with some bosses that are just bad. Just bad, no matter how you look at it, you know, and you try to find some positive quality in them, but they're just bad. And they're not effective either, which is worse. You know, so if they were at least getting some sort of result, you can make peace with the fact that that's their personality and that's just the way they live their lives, and to them it's normal. But if you're a bad leader and you're not getting results, it's a double whammy, I think, but 100%. And you don't need to be a good person doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to allow people to walk all over you. Because when you are driving strategy and when you need to make those hard decisions in the business that people expect you to make, they don't sit back and decide, no, they're going to make the retrenchment decision. You need to make it. Does that make you a bad person? No, it doesn't. But you need to do what's best for the business, and you need to do it in a decent way. You work with human beings. At the end of the day, we don't work with machines. We work with people, the same people that built your business from the ground. Your business has now changed, going through hard times. You need to make some changes. Just show them the respect that they deserve. So one of the things that are important to me about an attribute of a leader is self-awareness. So how does the way I behave, my character, my personality affect you, my communication to you? And going back to the point where we say we send a mail at 9:30 at night and hope for the best. So what effect does that mail have on the individual that you've sent at 9:30 at night? I'm not talking to the workaholics here, I'm talking to the normal people.
In a way, it communicates disrespect. Because 9:30 at night, sending out a work-related message or email, you are not respecting the other person's time.
Yes, Anina.
Varsha, I do feel that some of us need to work at that time. You don't really get time during the day to get everything done. So the person that gets upset by that or is distracted and can't have a good night's sleep needs to switch it off from their cell phones. They need to put it off or not have emails on their cell phone. Each person is going to take responsibility for their own effectiveness and their own work ethic that they're going to do. So there's no ways that I will get everything done before 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I will send mails after hours. So if it's got a negative effect on you, you need to switch it off your cell phone.
Okay. And then if you need it done by 8 o'clock the next morning?
Well, then I should have let them know before that. You need to take responsibility to notify people at time yes.
100%. 100%. Francois?
Well trained.
Following his leader. So I'm going to tell you a story. Well, not a story, it's actually a fact, an experience that I had. I was working for a mining company and it was going through a crisis situation. It's a multinational, head office is in India. The culture, the working culture in India is very different from our working culture. It's very hierarchical, it's very much alive and well and kicking there. And there's no kind of respect for time. So I joined this company and it was loss making, and I was given 6 months to turn it around. That was my KPI, yeah. And so the first place you start when you join is efficiencies, okay, because we all know that word. What efficiencies can we draw out of the business, and where are we being ineffective, and how can we improve effectiveness, and what can we do with stock and our supply chain and blah, blah, blah. And one of the areas that was a hindrance in the finance department was the creditors section. And I could never understand why. So eventually what happened is there was an employee, so my financial manager was there at the time, and she says, no, the lady is not performing, she can't get her recons out on time, and we can't do payments on time, and as a result our suppliers are bringing stuff late, and it went on. So eventually we decided, okay, let's offer her some training and sit her down and talk to her, and we went through the process. And then we said, since it's not improving, we have to now go into performance management. And we did that. And she cracked. She had a nervous breakdown. She had to be admitted into hospital, psychiatric hospital, by the way, on a lot of drugs. She had a little girl and a husband, and she had to stay there because she couldn't go home because of the state of mind that she was in. Now, me, as a leader, could have sat back and said, she's incompetent. It's proven by her track record that she couldn't perform her duties and she can't handle the stress. And I think it's best that we mutually separate and offer a package, and off she goes. So we add more stress to her current life. But I didn't do that. And this is why self-awareness is important to me. So I went back and I reflected, and I asked myself a few hard questions. So all the feedback that I got was from my financial manager. I didn't interact with her on a daily basis myself. And I asked myself, do I understand why she is not performing? Have I given her the tools to do what I'm asking her to do? Do I understand what her challenges are in her non-performance? And I didn't have any answers. And that's what, it scared me. Because we went down this entire path with no answers to hard questions. And then I started asking questions about the lady and her environment and so forth. And what I found out was actually mind-blowing for me. So the creditors clerk, who's supposed to have finance experience and understands how a basic recon works, was a data capture procurement clerk. And the creditors clerk was now the data capture procurement clerk. So when I asked the question, why were these two positions switched? The answer I got was, nobody knows. The previous FD decided they want to do some cross-skilling, so they switched the positions. So I said, okay, so firstly, she's in the wrong job. And I've got a procurement capture clerk that's shooting the lights out because she has finance knowledge, she understands costing, pricing, blah, blah, blah. I have a creditors clerk who only understands costing and asking the supplier to deliver something that now I'm asking to do a creditors recon. And then, what was even more interesting was that the lady that was appointed to help the creditors clerk was her husband's ex-wife's mother. Now you can imagine the dynamic that unfolded there. And there I was, completely oblivious of the situation that was unfolding, and just on this, can you please just get this right? Can you please just do this on time? So I wasn't exactly self-aware, and neither was I present as a leader. I sat in my office, I listened to other people, but I was not present. I didn't understand what was going on around me. So for me, those two attributes be self-aware, and you better be present. If you're in the job, please be there 100%. Don't be a warm body filling an office that people see now and again, but don't have the courage to talk to. Okay, so that for me was quite an eye-opener. Well, we helped her through the process. We switched their job functions around, and she actually bloomed. She was fine. She was in the right place. So I think those are one of my defining moments in my career, if I have to reflect on it. Okay, so just be present, please, all of you. Be interested in other people. Don't just go off on your own perception of what's going on. There's just, I think, one last thing that I'd like to talk about. And it came up in our discussions, and it's about an inclusive versus exclusive environment. And a lot of you spoke about being included in the plan and knowing what it's about, and you feel kind of left out sometimes. So I have one gripe from my perspective. And now I'm talking again as a follower. Because as a leader, I have a lot to learn from the people in this room. I don't know everything. I just know what I need to know to do what I need to do. But you guys know all the stuff that makes me achieve what I need to do. And the one gripe I have is the language. So we talk about transformation, and we can see we're doing well. But I'm English speaking. I was born English speaking, so it's not my fault. I did do Afrikaans in school. By the way, I got a better grade in Afrikaans than I did in English in matric. But I can't speak the language. And I can follow you, but I don't quite understand it when it gets technical. So for me, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I want to be included as a person that works here and is your colleague. So you invite me to join, invite me into your family. I share your goal, I share your vision, your dream, your roadmap. And then when I arrive, you as the host speak in a language I don't understand. So it makes me feel excluded. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. Because I would like to be a part of your family. I'd like to be your friend. I'd like to know about your kids, what your hobbies are. But I can't. Because you don't allow me. So I think, does anybody have anything to say? Yes, Asha.
I must be honest with you, Rivasha. I think when a point of language barriers come into consideration, I think it has to do with a lot with the person personally. I work in an office where I'm the only Indian female there, and I sit with mostly Afrikaans-speaking people. And I must be honest with you, I've never been in a situation where I had to personally feel that I was excluded from everything. Because I stand on an individual platform and say that if they're speaking Afrikaans, I, with all due respect, say to them, can you please speak English? I don't understand what you're saying. I also understand, and I can speak Afrikaans, but with all due respect, I refuse to. I'm English speaking. And with the same tone, they do respect me and they revert back to English. And I do have the same issue when I'm consulted with Zulu or Xhosa or a different kind of African-speaking people. I always say to them, listen, can you just speak in a language I understand, which is English. So I think it comes down to a person and how they perceive the situation. I also go to meetings where I'm asked, what would you prefer me to speak, English or Afrikaans? And I, being the person I am, would say how many more Afrikaans-speaking people are in the room. I understand the language, but if there are more English-speaking people in the room, I say I don't have an issue with how do they feel. So, with all due respect, if I'm in a situation like that, I always voice my opinion. And if I'm feeling things are getting out of hand, I don't feel offended I just appreciate people to have respect for me as a person and I will show the same respect.
It's good. It's good. You're brave enough to speak up. Yeah.
I think that can be a touchy subject though, because one of my very good friends is pure Afrikaans, and she also refuses to speak English, exactly as you refuse to speak Afrikaans. This business is, the official language is English, so therefore you should abide by that. If you are working in a company where their official language is Afrikaans, you should abide by that. But obviously have as much consideration as possible. But when it comes to business, you should stick to what is mandated. So, unfortunately, I'm an English-speaking person as well, but if there is a meeting in a company that is Afrikaans mandated, I will provide. Unless, of course, you're unable to, I can't speak Sotho or something like that. But then you make it known that you can't, and to see what accommodations can be made.
I think coming to AFGRI as a new employee, it's a shock to the system because I must say it doesn't feel like it's part of South Africa when I first watch it, right? So, and you realize that people have been here for 30, 40 years and they've only been speaking Afrikaans. So it's a shock to actually their system to realize that they must now speak English and they cannot speak English. And that's the thing, a factor that you must then take into account. You're trying to understand them. And they also have to understand that we live in a different sort of country where we're trying to, the business language is no longer Afrikaans, but it's now English. And to get into a lift for me and I say good morning, and I hear Moira, I don't understand. Because I didn't say madam. I said good morning as the business language. And I think people who have been here for years and years, and people who come here and find that same sort of environment, need to change their mindset because that's where the problem lies. Because you bring people here who've been to universities where they spoke English and so forth, right? So they understand the environment of the kind of country that we're in. And they think that you're going to find the sort of environment here, and it's totally different. So the people who've been here for 30, 40 years, they're the ones who need the sort of help to change and to understand that emails cannot be in Afrikaans because why? We're trying to include everybody else in this country.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It goes back to when you talk about no matter what the situation, whatever reaction you have, you must be a good person. So I think it's important that you don't always react in such a way that the other person is negative. Give 100% and try to bring that person along and say, well, I literally didn't understand what you said. And see how they react. Empathy and also reacting.
It's a learning curve.
It's a soft.
But it's a soft issue.
Very soft.
It's a soft issue.
I just want to add to the communication. I mean, if you receive an Afrikaans email from a client and you are in a leader's position and you know, like he said, the person is going to do the payout can't understand Afrikaans, then if you are not considering, if you just say, do as asked, then you must at least tell the person, please debit this account and credit that account. That's a leader to know that the person is going to do the job, won't understand what's being said in 30, 40 terms for your client. I mean, he doesn't know the person is doing the job, is English speaking. He's Afrikaans, so he addresses it to you as his company in Afrikaans. So if you forward it, you must be very clear, specifically what you know.
With an instruction. It's true. Anyone else? Come, guys.
Yeah, can I just say it's still a problem, but it's far much better now. I've been here for some 20 years. So like when I joined that, it was so bad. But otherwise, where we are now, the computer system which we used to use, the mainframe, it was
No, that's good. It's good. But it's back to your point, you know, it's a shock to the system. It is. It is a shock to the system. Yes, Bongani.
Sure. Yeah. I think this is a tough one. Yeah, in a lot of ways.
It is.
This is a national conversation that's happening in this ecosystem, right? That is AFGRI. So, and I think we shouldn't, because we are under this roof, lose the national undertones that happen between black and white and otherwise, right? This is the legacy we all share. This is why we're here. And in using the language, just be aware that you are bringing to life those undertones. So our legacy haunts us to this day. So now that we're here, whether you're comfortable speaking Zulu, Sotho, or Afrikaans, just you need to make an effort. Because if nothing else, for our past. Because to not make that effort, you're just invigorating those undertones all over again. That's why something as innocuous as good morning, modern, then you're thinking you're disrespecting me now, right? Because of our past, and we can't wish that away just because we now have employment contracts from Africa, right? We are South Africans that are burdened by the reality of our past, So I think it is incumbent upon all of us to make an effort to accommodate each other. Otherwise, you just go back to the 70s. Whether you want to do it or not, that's what you're doing. So I think for the sake of our productivity, if nothing else.
You will revert to...
Yeah. These are the tools we didn't create at AFGRI, so we can't own them, right? They're not ours. But it is just because of the country we were born in and functioning. Those are there, and to bridge that gap, both ends need to make the effort.
Thank you, Bongani. Is there any other comments?
I think also just in the same tone, to have grace for the people who have been in the industry for 40 years and have been speaking Afrikaans for those 40 years. To have grace for those people that need to change, need to catch up a little. And just to give them that time to allow the change to happen. None of us change overnight. And just to not immediately get angry at them when they say goeiemorgen, but to have grace with them and you know what? Maybe in a month's time I'll get that for good morning, but just not to react in love and not in hate.
Yeah.
Also on that, I think we all take for granted that people should respect our own needs, and I expect people to speak to me in English or Afrikaans or whatever it is. And actually, when the situation comes down to it, just ask. If I don't think I've ever been in a meeting where people have been speaking a different language and I've had to stand up and say, I don't understand, please change. And it's never an issue. Never, ever, ever an issue. People will always change, or they will ask and they'll say, are you following? It's you where it starts with. You have to physically say, I have a problem, please can you help me? You don't ask them to change, you don't ask for the help, it's not going to happen, or they are fully unaware of it happening. So
it comes back to self-awareness.
But how many of us can ask? If your boss speaks in Afrikaans and you've just joined the company, you are English speaking, you're thinking, would this be offensive to speak up to my boss?
Let me say this in a different way. Not English, Afrikaans, Zulu, Xhosa, whatever. Yeah. I had read a quote the other day, and it says, blame is not for failure. Blame is for failure to ask for help, or for failure of somebody that can help you to help you. So maybe the people that don't ask for help, or the people that see somebody is battling, they're the guys to be blamed, rather than the guy that's battling at that stage.
Look, that's why you have policies, right? That's why you have a policy that says the business language is English, so we don't have to interpret what people are feeling at given times, right? So to deviate from that would actually be in breach of the AFGRI policy.
So if you're in a meeting and you're only Zulu speaking people, Are you speaking in English?
I am.
Sadly, yes.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah, I speak to look at English. It's a weird thing, but yeah.
Okay. What are the attributes of the technical language? So, for example, if I come to you with a problem and you're still saying balance sheets and all that, I'm going to go, what? Because I'm not on your technical level. I'm not a financial person. I find that is also quite large, but speak up and I'll say to you, I'm sorry, I don't understand what that is. Can you simplify for me a little bit more?
I think the reason why I raised the point is that a lot of us sitting in the room at the moment speak up about, I'm sorry, can we conduct this meeting in Africa, in English? Please don't send me any emails in Afrikaans. Let's follow the business language and so forth. So that's from a work perspective. And we talk about inclusive as being more than just a work perspective. The world moves towards relationship management and stuff like that. So how do you build relationships with people who don't understand you and they ask you to speak in their language, but you still don't? So I think that's where I'm coming from. And if you look at the future of AFGRI and the strategy of AFGRI and the people that are, the talent that is being produced in our wonderful country, we come in all shapes, sizes and colors. That's the beauty of South Africa. You want to attract that talent. And you want to make sure that you are able to retain that talent. And for me, a lot of people that might be new to the business might not speak up because it's maybe their first job or their second job. It's a big company. They're excited to be here. It's a move for them in the right direction. But they won't speak up. What do you think they'll do? Exactly. They will leave. And they'll move on to bigger and better things. And you will miss out. So I think for me, that's where I'm coming from. If I look at AFGRI.
Rivasha, I want to add one more thing. I've got factories where the people don't understand English. The people that work for me.
So that's your environment. That's the environment that they are in. So you can, so to my point, you can get an amazing factory manager, the best in the world, but he won't work in your feed mill because he speaks English. So that's all I'm saying. I left it for last because I know it's very controversial, but I just want us to think about it, and all the things make sense. The empathy, the fact that we want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. I think for me that's important. Yes, Bongani. Bongani is going to close for me.
No, good for you. So I think this question is much larger than AFGRI and the employees. I think what we need to remember is that language is a culture carrier. If you insist on a certain language, you insist on a culture carrier. Right? So if we want to, and what you said was so on point about feeling included or excluded. Right? If a certain culture excludes you, we can argue the merits of why we use certain words when, but if you're feeling excluded, we're not creating the environment we want. And therefore we're not transitioning the culture to an inclusive culture.
Thank you, Bongani. Is there any other comments? Okay, so just my last share with you. I have a few men in my life. Yes, I said a few, not just one. A few men. And one of them is Anthony Robbins. And he wrote a book called Awaken the Giant Within. I don't know if any of you have read it, but it's a great book. It teaches you a lot about how you can help yourself to change your mind. It has a lot of neurological science language in it, which is great. That for me was one of the books that I used as I progressed through my career when I found there was a lot of change happening nothing stays the same. Nothing. So, if you have a chance in the hours of the morning when you can't sleep, I'd advise you to get the book. Have a read. The other book is by Robin Sharma, Leading Without a Title. That also speaks volumes, that you don't need to be given a title to lead. Hierarchy should not exist. Everybody should be free to say what they want to say, with respect, of course. And my favorite book is by Dale Carnegie, How to Make Friends and Influence People. That book goes back to a number of years and speaks about there's a lot of stories in it, but there's a lot of principles in it. And every time I read that book, I've had that copy for 10 years. Every time I read it, I learn something new. So that's also something that I will encourage people to read. And my last point is, there is one person that's the most important author in my life, and that's me. I write my own book. I live my life the way I want to live it, according to the way I think it is right for me. And I would ask all of you to be the authors of your book. And today, if you can go back and you can start writing your best story, and make sure that it's worth the read. Thank you.